The battle for Selangor is definitely on between Barisan Nasional and Pakatan Rakyat. Barisan is desperate in trying to recapture the state that they lost in 2008, and Pakatan Rakyat themselves are equally hell-bent on defending the state. I'm Regina Lee, and welcome to GE13, the Showdown. With us here again is Group Chief Editor, Datuk Seri Wong Chun. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Barisan Nasional has just unveiled their manifesto last night.
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I mean that if you look at the star today, I mean that it appears from at the first glance, it appears that what they're offering is what the Selangor state government has offered, we must have, and what should offer even more. And it seems like a contest between the Barisan Nasional and Pakatan to the people of Selangor, trying to outdo each other in offering and making a lot of promises. My concern as a taxpayer is who's going to pay for all this. And you and I are sitting in Selangor watching in all this because they have made so many promises, and it's really amazing in this battle to win the hearts and minds of the people in Selangor. As you say, Barisan Nasional is really making a serious bid to regain Pakatan. And interestingly, tonight, Pakatan is unveiling its manifesto. I presume they'll probably look at what the Barisan has offered and probably try to outdo them by offering even more.
Now, speaking of Barisan's manifesto for Selangor that they have just launched, they have promised some very interesting things, including 500 ringgit to newborn babies, as well as a halfway house for students as well as newlyweds who want to move from the rural centre to the urban areas to work. Why don't you think that these promises made it into the National Manifesto, since they are pretty interesting?
I suppose that because that you cannot make it into the national level. You talk about halfway house for people who come to work. Selangor is different from the other states because that it is a state where a lot of people from outside Selangor comes in to work, and you have these pressures that people faces when they come to Selangor to work: housing, transportation, that sort of thing. You don't really need a halfway house, for example, for working people in some rural area, right? It doesn't really make sense. You can't even fill it up. But Selangor is different. Selangor, as we know, has got the highest number of crime rate. And that's why it makes sense for Barisan to say, let's have CCTV all around the state. That makes sense. I also see some similarities between what Barisan has offered and what the Selangor government has given. For example, this free water for certain groups of people. That obviously seems to be quite similar. But I think whatever the manifesto that has been pledged by Barisan or Pakatan, I think that the challenge here is to actually deliver it. Because one of the weaknesses of the Pakatan government was that they made promises in their 2008 manifesto which has not been fulfilled. For example, we have this insurance scheme for the older people that has not been done. Then you have allowances for single mothers that again has not been fulfilled, and to the point that the Barisan has been attacking Pakatan to say that, well, their manifestos are not really fulfilled. Fulfilling it will be the challenge to both sides. And the Prime Minister has said that if Barisan wins, we will implement all that. Then if he actually wins, we have to hold on to what he has said. If he does not, then we will have to scrutinize whatever he has said.
Now, that's some interesting points that you have just made. Anyway, hold that thought. We'll be right back right after this short break. Welcome back. We have just talked about the Barisan Manifesto. So, Datuk Seri, Pakatan is about to launch their manifesto tonight. What do you expect to see?
I think that after they look through the Barisan National Manifesto, I expect them to revise and add in more. to, as I said, to add in more goodies. If you look at the manifesto, it's beginning to look like budget speeches, okay, by both sides, okay. We are really spoiled in that sense, okay. But seriously, I think that the Menteri Besar Khalil, he will have to really explain to the press. The press will definitely ask him, now you got to unveil this manifesto. You have to explain to us some of those points that you have promises have not been delivered, and you even went to the point of saying that manifesto is not a promise. That needs a lot of explanation. I think he should use the occasion to explain why these were not implemented, what were the problems, what were the hiccups, and they should also ask him that, are you going to retain some of these promises again? But I expect them to put on something that'll be interesting, given the fact that they have ruled the state for 5 years, and the experiences that they have gained will be tremendous and will be a great benefit to them. So I'm actually looking forward to the manifesto.
Speaking of which, do you think that they might actually scale down their manifesto a bit, given all these allegations of unfulfilled promises, like what you just said?
But that could be a possibility. Making a promise, making a pledge, and facing reality, whether financial or constraints on or the practicality of it, is something that state governments always face. In the past, voters do not really pay much attention to manifesto. It was just a piece of written documents. But voters have become more educated. They are much more demanding, and that should be the way. So they will look at everything that's printed in the manifesto of both sides, and then they will make an educated and educated decision. So I think this time they will probably, well, they may relook at it, but given the fact there's tremendous pressure from the Barisan Nasional, they may hold on adding more things, you know. I mean, politics is all about offering hope. Anyway.
Now, Selangor is a crown jewel. It's the most industrialized state in Malaysia, but at the same time, Barisan Nasional doesn't seem to have a very clear-cut candidate of who will be Menteri Besar should they win the state. Do you think that this would be a disadvantage to them among the voters?
I think that the Barisan Nasional will be quite cautious of naming a so-called Menteri Besar designate at this point. The most important for them, from their perspective, is to win the election. It doesn't make sense to say that, oh, these 3-4 guys are potential Menteri Besars, and then that you can't win the state. Okay? Then it actually is like counting the eggs before it's hatched. And also, politics being politics, there always be internal rivalry. And I'm not too sure whether it's a good strategy to name somebody who have not make it. And given the fact that there are so many new names and so many fresh faces, the press are still looking through the names, trying to figure out who are these people. They may be known locally in their respective constituencies, but for us over here in PJ and in KL, we're still trying to figure out who are these people. So let's just wait and see, I think.
And this list of Barisan candidates that have just been announced, you said just now that we're still trying to figure out who they are. How do you think they will stack up against some of these Pakatan incumbents, some of whom are already household names like Teresa Kok, Tony Phua, Khalid Samad? How do you think that they'll fare against them?
Well, you mentioned Teresa Kok and Tony Phua and Khalid Samad. Obviously, Teresa Kok and Tony Phua, even if they will stand at state level, they won't be Menteri Besar, right? So that the attention is probably to look at PKR and UMNO candidates. The fact is that whoever wins, whether it's Pakatan or Barisan, it has got to come from the ranks of UMNO. But don't forget, some years back, people like Kitoyo, nobody heard of them. And even now, Khalid Ibrahim was probably because of his corporate background. But before that, he was not known as somebody who is politically savvy. Selangor's problem, I think, is that there are many potential Menteri Besars. And sometimes in the crowded field, that make it complicated. But I think if academic qualification and corporate experience is a criteria, there are actually 4 possible UMNO candidates on the list, when I look through their credentials, there are actually 4 who fulfill that criteria. But as you say, they're not household names, and I myself say that I can't remember the names, but they seem to fit in that criteria. So sometimes a fresh face. If you're looking for somebody who is accountable, who is clean, somebody who may not have, who have not gone through that the rough and so-called dirty experience of politics, could just be the right person. You know?
Now, the Rakyat is also ready to see what Pakatan has in store with their manifesto that is going to be launched tonight. I'm Regina Lee, and keep watching GE13, The Showdown, for more updates.